Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Nickelodeon cartoon, is a damn near perfect series. It has one of the best story arcs, one of the most well-written and executed plot, and some of the most defined and three-dimensional characters with growth I have ever seen. Not just in cartoons or television, but in anything I've watched or read ever. It is also one of the most beloved things that has ever been made, especially around people my age. I'm 27 years old. I grew up watching Avatar, and then later as I got older, I watched The Legend of Korra, and it has been a series that I have returned to multiple times. It's been sitting in my background here. Hold on. Right there. I don't know if you can see it. It's been in the background of my videos for years now. And this is not just something that is unique to me. It is something that is held dear by so many people. And as a fan of the show, we have been burned before by M. Night Shyamalan in the movie that I will not mention ever again in this video.
So, are you the Avatar Ong?
I say all this to just kind of paint the picture of what was at stake for this show and what it had to live up to and the expectations that people had behind it. Not only was it something that was damn near impossible to measure up to, but it also had an extreme low that already had people furious about a live action adaptation. So although it was something that all of us kind of dreamt about since we were kids, it is something that we were all incredibly and justifiably nervous about. So after saying all of that, how exactly does it stack up? So it kind of goes without saying that this show has received either massive hate or massive love. There's really no middle kind of spectrum for it. Nobody's been like, yeah, it's fine. But in all reality, this show is fine. And it's not fine in the stereotypical sense of the term. Like, it's not like throughout the entire way I was like, yeah, this is about a 7 out of 10. And it's not absolutely amazing to where I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. And it's not absolutely terrible to where I struggled to get through every single minute of this show. The weird thing is that sometimes it was one of the best things that I had ever seen, and I was loving every single second of what was on screen. And then there's also moments where I fucking hated every single thing that I was watching, and I wanted to turn it off, but I just kept grinding through it because I hoped it would return to what was good. And eventually it did. But eventually it also came back here. It was just a whiplash and roller coaster of amazing to awful to loving it to hating it. And that went on throughout the entire series. What I'm going to do in this video, or at least attempt to, is to outline the good and bad aspects of this show and try to paint the picture of how The Last Airbender Netflix adaptation is a worthy adaptation of the animated series. I'm going to do this in a couple different ways, but first I'm going to start with the episodes and storylines in general. Now, the animated series was 20 episodes, each one running about 22 episodes long. It was a comedy series with a little bit of drama in it. Whereas this one is 8 episodes, about 45 minutes to an hour long. It is a drama with a little bit of comedy in it. I bring this up and kind of emphasize that because one of the biggest gripes I've seen so far with this show is that Aang isn't going on his side quests. I wanted to address this right out of the gate because I'm okay with that. It is the biggest problem people have, but I'm personally fine with that. I think in a live action setting like this, in a much more dramatic setting like this, where we open with a genocide of a people and with Aang constantly struggling with the fact that he feels responsible for the genocide of his people and he is the Avatar and his mission is to master all the other elements on this journey so that he can prevent this war and the genocide of all of the other people that is not the Fire Nation. It would be a little bit strange in a more dramatic show like this that is emphasizing the brutality of this situation, if we took 20 minutes out of one of the 8 episodes so he can go like tobogganing or whatever. I just wanted to talk about that out the gate because that has been the biggest thing I have seen talked about, and I wanted to explain why I'm fine with it. And in fact, I think that it was a smart decision.
Stand there in your wrongness and be wrong and get used to it.
Now I'm going to talk about the combined storylines and episodes because the animated show was 20 episodes long and this is 8. A lot of the time like 3, 4, 5, or sometimes even more storylines are taken from multiple different episodes and put into one, sometimes spread out between multiple different characters or put into one location. Sometimes that is done very well, sometimes it is done very poorly. Episodes 1 and 2, in my opinion, are done very well in that aspect. One of the things that I like from right out of the gate is that we start out following Aang 100 years in the past when the air nomads were still a thing and before Sozin's Comet. We get to see him hanging out with his friends and getting trained by Monk Gyatso and finding out he's the Avatar. We also get to see the wiping out of the air nomads and, like I said, the brutality of the Fire Nation. And it is just an amazing way to start the show and show that, yes, this is an adaptation of The Last Airbender, but it is taking a few liberties of its own and showing a darker side of it, which makes sense. While episode 1 is very similar to the pilot of the animated show, we do have that flashback at the beginning that gives us a lot more background on this war without having to slowly find out about it. There's been a lot of talk about how there's a lot of exposition in this show, and I won't say there isn't. But I will say that people don't talk about moments like this to where they do show instead of tell by having that extra time in every single episode to flesh something out like this. It includes scenes that we've never even seen, such as this first 20 to 30 minutes of the very first episode.
Why are you doing this?
Because it is our time.
Episode 2, we go to Kyoshi Island and we meet Suki and the other Kyoshi warriors. But instead of just that, we also get the combination storyline of Aang meeting with Avatar Kyoshi and having like an Avatar vision, and Kyoshi telling Aang what she believes he needs to do to be a successful Avatar. This, in my opinion, episode 2, Warriors, is one of the, if not the best episode in season 1 overall. It is absolutely phenomenal. I love the Kyoshi Warriors. I love what they did with them. It's things like this that could seem silly or over the top, but in fact just seem completely badass. Episode 3 and 4, though, is a definite low point for this, and where it flips to the bad spectrum I was talking about, and this is where way too many storylines and characters and situations are thrown in all at once. In episode 3 and 4, all in Omashu, not even in different places, we meet the Mechanists, Jet and the Freedom Fighters, King Bumi. We have the storyline where King Bumi puts Aang through his trials at the same time that Sokka and Katara are going through the secret tunnels and meet the singing hippies.
Through the mountains, secret, 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 secret tunnel. Yeah.
And we also have edging of the Cabbage Man for some reason.
My Cabbage Man!
So many of these characters are displaced and put out. In the show, it's just Bumi that's here, but we have the Mechanist here instead of at one of the air temples. We have Jet and the Freedom Fighters here as well. But also, when King Bumi is putting Aang through his trials to save his friends, he is actually just doing that with Aang in the live action show, while Sokka and Katara, without Aang, are going through the secret tunnels with the badger moles, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because this is one of the first moments in the cartoon that we see some blossoming feelings between Aang and Katara. I'm okay with that being left out. I'm diehard Zutara to the day I die. Episode 5 and 6 brings us back up to a peak, though, in Spirited Away and Masks, where we have combinations of different storylines, like going to the spirit realm to save the city, but also Code the Face Stealer. And then in episode 6, episode 6 is kind of just the storyline of the Blue Spirit and Zuko rescuing Aang from the other firebenders. But that is one of the best episodes of the series as well. But these episodes combine everything masterfully. Spirited Away is a very beautiful episode. I like what they did with Code the Face Stealer, although it's a little bit strange that Aang can emote his face and he doesn't care about that. And also the owl spirit from the library is in this, which I love the addition of them. Their voice gave me chills when I heard it for the first time. But that's what I mean when I say it's a roller coaster of emotions, going from 3 and 4, which were just muddled and had me rolling my eyes and hard to follow everything because it was obvious they were trying to shove 15 episodes into this, and then 5 and 6 still had episodes together, but kind of slowed down and had a lot of very beautiful moments. But unfortunately, 7 and 8 is a downslide again. These are the last 2 episodes of the season that follow the invasion and attack on the Northern Water Tribe and the killing of the Moon God and Yue sacrificing herself. You know the whole deal. These are not good. I didn't think anything was really cool in this. Sokka and Yue made absolutely no sense, where again in the animation they didn't make a whole lot of sense. That was rushed, but somehow in this it is even more rushed because I think they have about 4 lines between each other before she sacrifices herself and you're supposed to believe this beautiful love story, you know?
You can help me finish this.
They weren't really dating, so how is Sokka supposed to say that his first girlfriend became the moon later on?
That's rough, buddy.
But whatever, I digress. But these episodes just feel awkward. The Northern Water Tribe does not look good. There's not a single moment in the Northern Water Tribe where I don't think these are a bunch of people with horrible makeup and prosthetics on in front of a bad green screen. Whereas the rest of the show had moments of that, but was actually rather beautiful to look at a lot of the time. It also had some of my least favorite moments in the entire series, but that is not for this section. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Moving on from the episodes, though, I outlined the good and the bad storylines and crunching together of other storylines and the arcs. Now I want to talk about the characters. But I'm an optimistic guy. I like to talk about the good things, and honestly, when it comes to the characters, there's more good than bad, and by a pretty good margin. So I want to outline the good characters first. The huge runaway character in this entire season for me is Sokka. Played by Ian Owsley, Sokka is just Sokka. From the very first moment that we meet him, he is running away with every single scene, and he is embodying everything we know and love about Sokka in the series. And again, one of the major gripes that we had coming even before this was out, just from an interview, is that Sokka started the show off non-misogynistic. And honestly, if you go back and watch the show, yeah, he was quite a bit, but he was also a kid. But also, it was only episode 4 when he met the Kyoshi warriors and kind of broke that out of him with Suki.
But seeing as you guys are a bunch of girls, I'll make an exception.
I should hope so. A big, strong man like you, we wouldn't stand a chance.
I would be honored if you would teach me.
Even if I'm a girl?
I'm sorry if I insulted you earlier. I was wrong.
So it wouldn't have been much of an arc in this anyway, with him breaking that in episode 2 when he met Suki. But that's not to say that Sokka isn't given different or heightened faults in this. He's very self-conscious about his ability to protect his home and be a warrior and follow in his father's footsteps, because although he tries super hard, he is not a gifted warrior, and that is a struggle of his and something that he needs to come to terms with. But he is also the reason I laughed in 90% of the scenes in this show when he was on screen.
Katara, no. There's no way you're getting me on that.
But beyond just being comedic relief, Ian Owsley is just a really good actor. I could go on forever in an entire video just about Sokka, but I will leave it at that. Uncle Iroh and Zuko are also major standouts in this, also embodying everything about those characters. Dallas James Liu plays Zuko, and Paul Sun Hyung Lee plays Uncle Iroh. And they get every single aspect of their characters right. Uncle Iroh has this deep goofiness and affection for Zuko, while on a layer even further than that, this deep sadness about his son Lu Ten, and the things that he did during the war in his kind of past life before the passing of his son. Zuko has all of this internal struggle, but also he has that Zuko sassiness that we love so much from the show.
So someone saw ice in a place where no ice should exist? Most people would call that unusual, wouldn't they?
There was also a couple things with Iroh and Zuko that was completely added in on the Netflix show that was not in the animation that I actually liked a lot, that I thought was a very good addition. And that is the fact that Zuko's crew in this is the crew that he saved when he questioned his father about the war strategy and was banished. And Zuko's constantly an asshole to them, but they eventually learn that they're the crew that was going to get sacrificed and that Zuko, lost his livelihood for, and they gain a massive respect and loyalty to him.
Attention! Our prince has returned. Oh.
And I also like the addition of the flashback of Lu Ten's funeral, where everybody else is just telling General Iroh that, his son died for the Fire Nation and a noble cause. And Zuko actually sits with him and is like, I'm so sorry for your loss. I can't possibly know what you're going through, and comforts him, something that nobody else was doing. In the smaller sense, I also really did like Ozai and Zhao, and basically everybody, with a few minor exceptions I'll talk about, in the Fire Nation is really, really good. Down to even Zuko's little crew. I love Lieutenant G as well. I'm going to blaze through these last couple ones. Suki, played by Maria Zhang, was really, really good from the moment she was on screen. I kind of liked the different portrayal of Suki that we had in this. Yes, she is still an amazing warrior. She is still an incredibly confident warrior. A lot of people are taking the fact that she felt the need to kind of overpower Sokka as her need to prove herself. I just take it as the fact that she is a teenage girl and has no idea how to flirt, and tried flirting in that way. The only thing she knows how to do, which is be an incredible warrior. Yue, played by Amber Midthunder, did really, really well with her short bit of screen time as well, especially considering that she was in my 2 least favorite episodes in this entire season. Aang, played by Gordon Comier, kind of has one foot in good and one foot in bad. There's a lot of times where he does very good, giving the sadness of Aang and discovering all these horrible things in the past and that he feels responsible for, while also having the goofiness and the levity of a child. The only reason I kind of put him in good and bad is because he is a child actor, and I think he can really grow into roles, but he definitely gives off a very heavy Daniel Radcliffe in the first Harry Potter movie kind of vibe, if you know what I mean. It's not a huge negative, and it's something that a lot of times can't be avoided when you get young actors like this. Now, as for the bad, like I said, this is a much smaller list, and the most horrifically bad character that we have in this is unfortunately Azula. And Azula is one of the best characters and one of the best villains that we had. Probably the best villain in all of Avatar, the animated version. But in this, she lacks all confidence and menace. She's not sinister in any kind of way. Where's her blue flames, by the way? We had a little sneak peek of her blue flames when she got angry, but she also is not an intimidating or threatening entity in any kind of way, because from the beginning, she has all this self-doubt about her and she's just striving to put Zuko down, where in the animated show, she's not worried about Zuko. She doesn't care about Zuko. She knows that her little Zuzu is not as good as her. She is a firebending prodigy, and she is going to be the next Fire Lord, and Ozai knows it, and she knows it, and everybody knows it. But in this, she's just so self-conscious from the very beginning that it takes away all sinisterness that we can have about her. Mei and Ty Lee aren't in this very much, but given the fact that they just, lazily deliver lines, and not even like good lazy how you'd expect Mei to deliver lines, but just kind of lazily deliver lines, standing off on the sidelines next to each other, just so that the bad Azula can have something to bounce off of. So that trio, which is one of the best parts of the animated series, unfortunately falls flat every time they're on screen. I also unfortunately have Katara in this section, and that's not anything to do with the actress. Kiwantio Tarbell, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right, I'm doing my best. Kiwantio Tarbell plays Katara, and she does a very good job with what she is given, but a lot of her agency is taken away in this. We are told at the end of the season that she is now a master waterbender, but we haven't really seen any of that build-up. We've seen a little bit of her get a little bit better and a little bit better, but somehow in the final 2 episodes, she is able to almost defeat Master Pakku and becomes one of the most valuable benders in the Northern Water Tribe in the fight against the Firebenders, but we didn't get any of that. On top of that, she's kind of lost that maturity that you normally get with Katara, because she is the caretaker of the group. Again, This isn't anything wrong with the actress. I think she did the best with what she had. But I feel like a lot of Katara's character building and deeper levels are kind of stripped away from her in this for some reason. And the last section of comparing good and bad that I'm going to do is talk about the bending and the fights. And again, I'm going to start with the good because I think the show is more good than it is bad. Sue me. Now, the opening scene of the very first episode with that unnamed earthbender and the unnamed firebenders, where the earthbender's trying to get the war plans outside of the Fire Nation, is one of the coolest openings I've ever seen of a show. The firebending looks dangerous as hell. The earthbending looks powerful. When you see the rocks come up from the ground, it just gives you goosebumps because it just feels like this immense actual weight they're having to lift and the power behind it. That fight is fucking phenomenal. And the CGI looks really, really good as well. There are some clunky bits here and there, but honestly, it never once bothered me. The firebending, honestly, all around in this always looks really good. Another one of the amazing moments that we have is the Agni Kai between Zuko and the Fire Lord. That is really, really amazing to watch. Probably one of the coolest all-around moments when it comes to fighting that we have in this entire series, though, is when Avatar Kyoshi possesses Aang's body and takes over to show the full extent of what the Avatar state can do on Kyoshi Island. That is just marvelous to look at, and Kyoshi looks amazing. But beyond just the bending part of it, seeing Suki and Sokka fight together perfectly in sync and with that amazing choreography is almost as breathtaking as the whole Avatar Kyoshi bit going on. I really, as far as looks, don't have a whole lot of gripes about how the bending looks in this. But onto the bad, what's really surprising is the fact that in a show where you have some absolutely amazing fights with amazing choreography, in the same exact show, in the same exact season, you can have some of the most dog shit looking choreography and fights that just look like two people dancing together. A lot of the same complaints that you have in the Star Wars prequels when they're just kind of twirling their lightsabers around. Most of these gripes come from the last two episodes, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that waterbending just kind of looks like ass in this show. There's never any power behind it, and the water is the worst looking element as far as CGIing the bending goes. And I know that water is often a difficult thing. I mean, James Cameron spent like 6 years trying to make water look right for his Avatar movie. Again, it just kind of looks like a garden hose is getting blasted at somebody, and then you see the little spurt of water hit them and they go fucking flying and screaming. It's not believable for being as powerful as they say it is, and that's very unfortunate because waterbending is one of the coolest forms of bending that we have in the animated series. The two fights that bother me the absolute most are Katara's fight with Master Paku, which, on top of the fact that it was very slow moving and it just kind of looked like they were taking turns instead of actually fighting each other. It was far too fluid and dance-like in that way. Like I said, very slow. It kind of robbed Katara of that agency of making her feel powerful again. In that same vein, in the moment where Katara fights Zuko in the end, in the animated series is one of my all-time favorite moments because Zuko challenges Katara in a place surrounded by ice at nighttime on a full moon. And Katara's just like, you're a fucking idiot for this dude, and takes him out without breaking a single sweat. And it shows Zuko and the fact that he is too driven by rage and blind ambition to have some forethought about what he's doing, but it also really shows that Katara is a master at her craft. In this, she basically loses to Zuko. Like instead of winning handily without breaking a sweat, she fucking loses to him. And it's just one of those moments where it just robs her of any of the badassery that we get in Katara, who's supposed to be one of the best waterbenders in the world. Now, if I'm being honest, And if we're all being honest, this show could have never, ever lived up to what we wanted from it. Because like I said in the beginning, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, is one of the most beloved and well-made shows in history. It is as close to perfect story as you are going to get, and I truly, truly believe that. Expecting that is impossible. You're not going to catch that lightning in a bottle twice. But throughout this, I had a lot of fun for the most part. Yeah, it was a bit fan servicey, but I really didn't need much more from it. Nothing was going to catch me by surprise, and I don't believe that anybody will watch this show that has not already watched the cartoon. So it's not trying to tell an original story. It's just trying to be exciting for people that already love the story. And in that sense, it worked. I was excited for months leading up to it. I was excited every single night after my kids went to bed and I was able to lay down on my couch and watch a couple more episodes of this. I had fun. Despite the negative aspects, I had a lot of fun. So yes, I believe this is an honorable adaptation. And I think wanting anything more out of it than we got with the live action is just not possible. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out my other videos.